Yo, what is going on, guys? CWpoke here, back with a brand new VGC 2016 analysis video, and today we are using everyone's favorite Pokemon in the VGC format, and that is Smeargle. Yes, love him or hate him, Smeargle is indeed allowed in this format, and he is going to be a very tricky Pokemon to deal with. So I think it would be best if we kind of analyze some different sets that it typically runs, and figuring out the best way to try and handle this if you find yourself staring this guy face to face. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of its base stats. It's got a whopping 55 HP, 20 attack, 35 defense, 20 special attack, and 45 special defense. So overall, not very offensive and not very bulky. It does, however, sit at a base 75 speed, which isn't terrible, but it's not great. But it is a very crucial speed tier on its own because it is Smeargle. This is the Smeargle tier. If a Pokemon is faster than this, it instantly gains some value because of that. So do keep it in mind, it is a very important speed tier, even when you're not using Smeargle. If you're using another Pokemon that's very close to the speed tier, try and beat it if possible. It gives you an upper hand on Smeargle that are not running any type of speed support. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of its key points, or rather the main key point. The fact that it is basically a Darkrai in disguise. Yes, because of Sketch, this thing is able to trace, or not trace, sketch, Dark Void, which is Darkrai's signature move. This move hits both opposing Pokemon on the field, puts them both to sleep with an 80% accuracy. So it's not the most reliable, but it's still fairly reliable, at least getting one of those Pokemon asleep. And if it gets both of them asleep, you are very far behind, because sleep can be such a crucial status condition in such a short game like VGC. On top of that, it also has access to the ability Moody, which at the end of every turn randomly raises a stat by +2 and randomly decreases one stat by -1. So at the end of a turn, I could get +2 speed, -1 attack. I could care less about the attack, so it doesn't matter that that went down. But now I'm basically sitting at +2 like I'm sitting under a tailwind, which is phenomenal. Or you could get something like -1 defense, which, okay, whatever, I'm not very bulky anyways, and you get +2 accuracy, meaning Dark Void is going to be hitting, if not 100% of the time, but it's going to be hitting a lot. So it's going to be very good. Now the problem with this ability and Smeargle overall is its variability. It's running a lot of risks here. Is Dark Void going to connect? Is Moody going to work in my favor? What item, what moveset should I run? You know, it's a very tricky to figure all that out. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the two very common Smeargle sets, and that is basically the Scarfed Sleep set. Running a Choice Scarf with the ability of either Own Tempo or Moody. I think Own Tempo is a little bit safer here in case Moody drops your speed, or in case someone goes for a last-ditch effort priority swagger and tries to confuse you. Own Tempo prevents you from getting confused, so that's one less thing you have to worry about. As far as EVs, you're going to want 252 HP, 6 defense, and 252 speed, making this as fast as possible and just slapping the rest into some bulk, because it's not going to be doing a whole lot offensively. And in all honesty, it's not going to be living a whole lot of strong hits anyways, so it's not like it matters too much. Now for nature, you're going to go with something plus speed. I went with Jolly Nature here. If you're not running Own Tempo, you probably want to go with Timid. That way, in case you are confused, you're going to be doing slightly less to yourself in Fake Out, or not Fake Out, in confusion damage. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind as well. Shouldn't make a huge difference, but, you know, it is kind of situational and it is optimal. So you can always run for that. Now, as far as movesets go, you're going to definitely want to have Dark Void. That is what makes Smeargle so great and so hard to deal with. And the other moves honestly kind of vary depending on what you want, but you could go with something like Follow Me if you want to opt for not going for Dark Void and you want to try and set up the other Pokemon through redirection, or you can go for Tailwind if you want that instant +2 speed, or you could even go for Transform. Let's say your Pokemon's set up and you want to transform into them and just help sweep and make it double the pressure. You can always try that. Now another common set is the Focus Sash set. This one, you're going to probably want to opt for Moody. EVs are going to be the exact same, just a lot of speed, a lot of bulk, and you're going to want a Timid Nature this time. That way Fake Out and, you know, confusion damage isn't doing as much and Fake Out does slightly more. As far as moves go, you're going to want to do Dark Void, and then you're going to probably want either Fake Out or Follow Me depending on how you want to support your team in that regards. And then you're going to want something like Transform or even some other filler move that you feel is really important to have. And then instead of Protect, you're probably going to want Spiky Shield. That way when Pokemon attack into you while you're using it, they'll actually take damage, which is pretty useful. Now, how do we fight Smeargle? Basically, there's no one clear-cut way to fight it because of its two different sets working so differently. But here are 4 common archetypes essentially that can help deal with it. For Talonflame, we have the Priority Offense, something that can hit very hard and hit fast, regardless of its actual speed. So Pokemon like Scizor or Talonflame with that Brave Bird are able to hit in priority and able to hit that Smeargle before it's able to get that Brave Bird off, or before the Dark Void off, my bad. The problem with this is if it's running a Focus Sash set, it's going to live the hit presumably, and that's going to be an issue because it can still Dark Void. Now for Thundurus here, we have the supportive priorities, so something that can Swagger, that can Taunt, or that can Thunder Wave, something that can cripple the Smeargle before it manages to get an attack off is also very good. Now for something like Ferrothorn, this is just a Pokemon that often runs the Lumberry as an item, so any Pokemon with Lumberry that's able to take a Dark Void, wake up, and then dish out some strong damage either through a multi-hit move, ideally, that would be the best, or something strong that at least puts it at 1 HP would be really useful to have here. Something that's just basically able to take the Dark Void and wake back up. This could also include Pokemon that have, you know, abilities like Insomnia or something. I know Mega Mewtwo Y gets Insomnia. That could be something worth checking out. Now, Mega Kangaskhan here is to represent Pokemon that are faster than base speed Smeargle and can also hit multiple times. So also Pokemon like Mamoswine, if you slap a Scarf on it, I believe it's faster than even a Scarfed Smeargle, which is really useful. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember Mamoswine's base speed, but it should be somewhere close to it. And it's able to hit with multi-hit moves, and same with Kangaskhan, able to hit something so it can break the Sash and still KO it in the same turn. That is one of the best ways to get rid of it. Now as far as strong partners go, it has things like Xerneas, Kangaskhan, and Crobat. Xerneas is something to kind of recommend using, basically something where Smeargle is going to try and get the Dark Void off as fast as possible, and then Xerneas is going to set up on its own. But this could also be Fake Out or Follow Me's, you know, ways to just get Xerneas set up without having to worry about taking damage. Now Kangaskhan is a little bit more offensive right off the bat. It more so supports Smeargle, it can Fake Out, and then it can just sweep with strong hitting moves. Now Crobat is to represent Pokemon that have something like Quick Guard, something that can actually, you know, prevent any sort of priority or status from actually crippling the Smeargle and preventing it from actually doing anything. So you will be able to still get the Dark Void off unless the Pokemon is faster than you. And if you're running a Scarf set, that's not going to be very likely. So let's take a look at Smeargle and Geomancy. The likely item here is probably going to be either Sash or Scarf. It's honestly kind of hard to determine that. It really depends on what the opponent just chooses to run. Now for the Scarf set, it's going to rely on getting a fast Dark Void off in order to get a free Geomancy. So basically, you know, this is just to quickly get off some fast, you know, sleep, and then set up Geomancy, and then, you know, presumably switch out or whatever, and that way it's going to be Xerneas that's going to sweep along with another strong Pokemon. Or the Sash set, which will typically use Fake Out or Follow Me in order to set up the free Geomancy. Then it'll proceed to do things like Tailwind or Dark Void or Transform even when it's appropriate. So you do have to watch out for those options. Now how to beat this one? It's really tough because it's a fairly 50-50 guess on what the item is. Now if you want to beat, you know, if you just want to have a very good sort of Pokemon lead in order to counter this one, you're going to want a Mon that's higher than base 75 speed, so it outspeeds regular Sash Smeargle, and then another Mon that can either threaten Xerneas or get some priority / speed control on that Smeargle somehow. So, you know, something that's very defensive and or a Lumberry. Another you know, great example is Ferrothorn, as we talked about in the Xerneas one, is a great counter to Xerneas, doesn't care about what moves it's really running, and can counter it back. So this would be a very good option, but basically you're going to want something that's faster than regular Smeargle, that's not Scarfed, and you're going to want something that can, you know, just hang in there as well. As for the very old school common lead Con Artist, this one is typically the Smeargle and Mega Kangaskhan lead. The likely item here is going to be Sash, and it usually uses Kangaskhan for the Fake Out support instead. That way you can get a fairly safe Dark Void off. Then it'll proceed to Power Up Punch, while Smeargle will use Tailwind or Transform in order to sweep. Now the Mega Kangaskhan here is typically Inner Focus and will rarely Mega Evolve if the opposing Fake Out Mon exists, so be careful about that. If you're going to try and Fake Out the Kangaskhan thinking that you're going to prevent it from setting up, it's probably not going to Mega Evolve, and it probably has Inner Focus if the, you know, opponent was thinking about that in their team building. So do keep that in mind. It's not a very safe way to beat it. Now both Pokemon here should be able to threaten the duo through speed and priority. So an example would be a Thundurus and a Kangaskhan. That way you can either Thunder Wave or Taunt the Smeargle, or you can KO it with Low Kick and Power Up Punch. This is basically assuming that the Kangaskhan is going to Fake Out one of your two Pokemon. That way at least the other one is able to either cripple it or take it out entirely, and that is really useful. Now you can also do something like Priority and Fake Out, so something like Kangaskhan and Talonflame where you can Fake it out and also Brave Bird the Smeargle. However, this does not work with Sash, because if they do happen to Fake Out your Kangaskhan, you know, you're going to basically take it down to 1 health again, because Brave Bird doesn't hit twice, it's going to take it down to its Sash. So do keep that in mind, it's not a 100% way to beat this lead. Now for the Quick Guarded Smeargle, the likely item is probably going to be a Scarf, because you want this Smeargle to sit behind a partner with Quick Guard That way any priority disruptions will not work, and the only way you can actually work around this is by being faster than the Smeargle. So they're going to usually want a Scarf, so that way it's one of the fastest things out there. How to beat this one is actually a little bit simpler. Having a faster Scarfmon with the potential to OHKO Smeargle is pretty solid. Or you can also run something like Feint in order to break the Quick Guard. That way the second Mon is able to disrupt or KO the Smeargle. Now this lead actually lacks offense, so do keep that in mind. If you fall asleep, it may actually be tolerable. You may have to hope for some fast wake-up turns, but do keep in mind it's not something where you're totally over it. You know, the game can still change easily if you wake up pretty fast. Now to wrap up, basically, you're going to want to use Team Preview to predict the leads. That's going to be one of the most key points to this, is you're going to have to try and guess what they're going to use. But don't get tunnel vision at the same time on Smeargle. You know, even if they lead Smeargle, do realize that it may be more viable or worthwhile to take out the opponent's other Pokemon, not the Smeargle necessarily. Just consider what your best options are and consider what's going to put you in a safer position. And also place yourself in your opponent's shoes. Ask yourself, what move would help me win? That will help hopefully give you some insight as to what they'll probably do. Are they going to switch out? Are they going to continue to Dark Void spam? Are they going to keep setting up? Are they going to possibly get greedy and hope that you sleep longer? You never know. So there are ways to play and try and turn the game around, but overall it is a very guess heavy sort of lead, or a very guess heavy sort of Pokemon in general, so you do always have to kind of worry about that. And the you know, the overall conclusion with Smeargle is it does require a best 2 out of 3 format to really be able to truly figure it out and adapt. It doesn't do as well in best 2 out of 3, one because of, you know, the randomness with Dark Void, and two because it gives the opponent time to adapt and figure out what the Smeargle is running. So it is a little bit better in the singles, or the single elimination format, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it is, you know, it's all we can really do is just try and learn as much about it as possible and figure out the best ways to kind of work around it. But overall, that pretty much is the conclusion of Smeargle. So I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and also be sure to check out some of my other videos. We just did a Xerneas analysis not too long ago, and you can go back to even one of my very first analysis for VGC 2016. That was Primal Groudon. Be sure to stay tuned for some more analysis videos coming up very soon, and I also just managed to get a 3DS capture card, so look forward to a couple of feature battles. I don't know if you guys remember the feature battles against the Deeb, Alam, and John Who, but some more of those may be coming back very soon. So on that note, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later. Peace out!